Good morning from the Maryland Department of Labor, Division of Workforce Development and Adult Learning. This webinar is being conducted to provide technical assistance for the Adult Education and Literacy Services Fiscal 21 Competitive Grant Application. We will begin with remarks from our State Director, Terry Gilliland.
Great, thank you so much. And I just want to take a very brief moment to say thank you to everyone on this webinar today, including our current local program partners, as well as anyone that may be new or interested in what we're doing. We appreciate your interest, not just in this process, but also in helping to advance adult education in the state of Maryland. And I really do want to, on behalf of Secretary Tiffany Robinson, just say thank you for that. Momentarily, I'll turn the floor back over to Ellen, but I do want to thank Dr. Ellen Beatty and her entire Adult Instructional Services team, who you will hear from today. They've been working on this process for the better part of the last 6 months. And I must say, in my role and my capacity, it really is a privilege to work with this team here, and I look forward to the great work that they will continue to do. And with that, we'll turn the floor back over to Ellen. Thank you.
Thank you. So today's webinar recording and slides will be posted on the Maryland Labor Adult Education website. The slides will include notes that include the page number references to the grant application documents. So if you have questions pertaining to any of the content, you can reference the slide notes for the direct location in the application. Any additional questions can be sent to me at my email address. They will be posted on the website in the same format as questions already received. You will see a question and answer document at the bottom of the application documents that lists all questions received and responses from our state office. So my name is Ellen Beatty. I'm the Chief of Adult Instructional Services, and I'm joined today by my state team of education program specialists. These are the topics that we will cover in today's technical assistance webinar. We will cover areas only in those areas that we think that you may want to give particular attention to. You are encouraged to carefully read the entire application if you have not already done so. We will cover the overview, resources, application, assurances and certifications, class schedules, and professional development. We will also cover the budget instructions, the budget examples, the budget example explanation, the IELCE application, and the NEDP application. The following are some dates you'll want to keep in mind. The intent to apply form is found in the overview document on page 27. It is due to the Maryland Department of Labor by 4 o'clock on February 14th. The application submission deadline is by 4 o'clock on March 2nd. If it has been determined by your program that it is ineligible for funding, you will be notified by March 31st. This competitive grant application is in force from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. We will start with the overview document. The Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act section is a brief summary of this act, which includes literacy services, economic self-sufficiency, and employment for your learners. As this is a competitive grant, Maryland Department of Labor is requiring all applicants to propose access to IET programming. The required components of IET programming include 1, adult education and literacy activities, 2, workforce preparation activities, and 3, workforce training. You should refer to the state plan and your local workforce development board's WIOA plan to ensure that your program's activities are in alignment with those plans. The website links to those plans can be found in the resources document. Your program should also include career pathways planning and implementation. You may want to refer to the state plan to ensure your activities are in alignment with that plan. Those activities must show innovative strategies that will support your learners in reaching their goals. The following are the adult education and literacy services goals for the programs. High quality professional development is a top priority. You are required to offer professional development opportunities using a variety of modalities. Programs must put systems in place to ensure the delivery of quality instruction and hold instructors accountable. Programs must provide digital literacy opportunities through blended and distance options. Programs must use data analysis to inform them of decisions to be made for your program and instructional development. The following is a list of adult literacy services that are included as a part of this competitive grant application. You are not required to apply for all activities and services, but you are encouraged to include as many as you can realistically do. "95% of your funds are to cover adult education and literacy activities. A maximum of 5% may be spent on administrative services. Administrative services include planning, administration, professional development, services in alignment with local workforce plans, and carrying out the one-stop partner responsibilities. However, there is an exception on the Literacy Works funding line. For the Literacy Works funding line, you can charge professional development and the salary and benefits for the MIS position, and it will not count towards your 5% administrative cost cap. You should refer to the budget and budget instruction documents for a description and examples to this unique situation. Maryland reports our outcome-based data to the federal government through the National Reporting System. Currently, Maryland uses the LACES data system. Programs must enter all of their data on a monthly basis at a minimum. All applicants are required to complete the data quality checklist. All programs must be familiar with the basic skills in English language assessment policy, understand its contents, and comply with the policy. CASAS, TABE, and BEST are the only approved assessments for reporting purposes. Due to federal and state regulations, there are some funding limitations. No federal, state, or matching funds may be spent on services for anyone under the age of 18. If your program plans on using subcontractors, Maryland Department of Labor must approve them prior to application. Programs must spend their funds, revenue, and interest within the grant period. Funds cannot be spent on advocacy activities. If you form a consortium, one of the members must be the fiscal agency. Maryland Department of Labor will not approve any out-of-state activities or travel. The Department of Labor also will not approve the cost of renting space, nor will it approve or fund, nor will it fund support services such as transportation and child care for students. Scratch that. Maryland Department of Labor will fund support services for transportation and child care for students. We will also fund preparation time for instructors. The total funding amounts are estimates and therefore may increase or decrease. The amount listed for each jurisdiction is determined by the percentage of the state total in FY19 of the total number of students served in that population. We also use the percentage of need from the American Survey Community Survey data. You may ask for more funding than what is indicated here, but should there be an increase, there will be no guarantee that the program will receive the requested amount. The funding for each jurisdiction may be split between 2 or more organizations, depending on the number of organizations awarded funding during that time period. Applicants are encouraged to include all of these services, but it is not required that you do so. Applicants who serve less than 100 learners are encouraged to form a consortium. Standards and requirements. Programs are not allowed to charge students who are in ABE levels 1 through 4 or ESL levels 1 through 5 for instructional services, but you may charge for instructional materials such as textbooks or consumables. Your curriculum should be guided by the College and Career Readiness Standards. The link to those standards can be found in the resources document. Classes must be of sufficient duration and intensity of instruction. You will want to refer to the assessment policy for more information. All programs are required to have and enforce an attendance policy. The policy should indicate how many absences a student may have before the student is withdrawn from class. All programs are required to track attendance through the use of sign-in sheets for each day that the class meets. All programs must also have a wait list. A student on the wait list has requested services during the registration and orientation process, but due to the lack of available space and/or resources, the student cannot be enrolled in a class at that time. Best practices indicate that there are a maximum number of students to be enrolled in a class at these levels for optimum learning. All programs are required to employ the following positions: program administrator, instructional specialist, intake and assessment specialist, and the management information systems specialist. Each program determines whether these positions are full-time or part-time. All instructional staff, including paid tutors, are required to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree. A master's degree is preferred, but not required. Your professional development plan will be due to the Maryland Department of Labor Professional Development Specialist 60 calendar days after the notification of grant award. All instructors, including NEDP assessors and advisors, must complete 10 hours of professional development each fiscal year. The professional development plan includes your digital literacy implementation plan. The link to that document can be found on the Maryland Department of Labor website with the grant application documents. Documentation of your professional development activities are to be uploaded to Google Drive within 30 days after that activity has been completed. Submission requirements. Your grant application must be submitted to the email address shown here by March 2nd at 4 p.m. Since signatures will be in blue ink, your files must be saved as an Adobe PDF file and in color. For the Maryland Department of Labor, to ensure we receive all of the files sent by your program, please follow the naming convention indicated here. Even if there is only one document, please indicate that it is part 1 of 1. The application is pre-formatted with page numbers and section breaks. Do not change the font style or size. The text box are preset unless otherwise noted. Use single spacing. Add or delete rows in charts as necessary. Table cells will allow for word wrapping. Moving to the resources. The resources section includes a list of websites that you would use for research and is providing the necessary information needed to complete your grant application. The job descriptions are included for the 4 key staff positions: program administrator, intake assessment specialist, instructional specialist, and management information systems specialist. The educational functioning level chart indicates the skills to be obtained in each of the 6 ABE and ESL levels. The rubric is for scoring method that the reviewers will use. The scoring is based on a total of 100 points. Notice that all of the considerations do not have the same point value. IELCE and NEDP are separate applications and therefore will be scored independently. Those scores will not be added to the overall score. For both IELCE and NEDP, The maximum points that can be earned is 5. If an applicant receives 0 to 2 points, the program will be disqualified from receiving funding for that program line. It will not disqualify them from receiving the grant, only that funding line. If a program receives 3 through 5 points, the program will receive funding from that funding line. Moving to the application. Complete all information that is required. The signature must be in blue ink. Use the application checklist to ensure that you have completed and submitted all of the required parts of the grant application. Please note that IELCE, IET application, and NEDP's application are both optional. The first step in the application process is meeting the eligibility requirements. An applicant must fall into one of these listed categories to be considered for funding. More information is available on page 4. Programs must also demonstrate that they have a record of effectively serving learners in the areas of reading, writing, math, and training or education or employment. If you are currently funded for Title II services by the Maryland Department of Labor, you will complete the chart on page 5, but not the chart on page 6. You will pull your information from LACIS to complete the chart. If you are not currently funded for Title II services by our department, you will complete the chart on page 6, but not on page 5. You will use your agency data to complete the chart. For those who are creating a consortium, you will copy and paste the appropriate chart for each member of the consortium to complete. This includes the fiscal agency. Keep in mind, to receive funding, all members of the consortium must be able to demonstrate effectiveness. Considerations. When referring to this agency, please use MD Labor. The agency has specifically asked that we do not refer ourselves to MD, DOL, or DOL because this can be confused with the U.S. Department of Labor. Applicants are required to answer all prompts. The text boxes are preset unless indicated otherwise. The Family Literacy MOU. Only applicants that are requesting family literacy funding are required to submit the MOU for family literacy. The MOU is an agreement between the adult education provider and the partnering agency. All parties must coordinate services and determine what services and resources they will provide within the parameters of family literacy funding. All signatures must be in blue ink. The assurances and certifications are legal documents, so read carefully. If you are applying for NEDP funding, you will sign additional assurances page at the end of the NEDP application. All assurances must be signed in blue ink. Complete the ABE and ESL class schedule and submit with your application. Programs should include any hybrid or blended course offerings in their ABE, ESL class schedule. Include a separate class schedule if applying for IELCE, IET funds, and or a separate site schedule if applying for NEDP funds.
Okay, we're now going to talk about the budget. So the budget workbook includes a summary worksheet and a narrative worksheet for each of the funding lines. You'll want to delete the worksheets for the funding sources for which you will not apply. The budgets submitted are proposed budgets. Therefore, these pages do not require signatures. Signatures will be required when the budgets are final. Finalized budgets will be due on June 30th after you receive your notice of grant award. All programs are required to include matching funds. The amount of matching funds required is calculated as follows. You'll take the Maryland Department of Labor requested funding amount, multiply that by 0.25. That will give you your matching funds. Of the total match amount, at least 35% must be a cash match. The remaining can be in kind. Be advised that your program will be required to maintain the full and actual dollar amount of matching funds for the remaining years of this grant. Costs must be reasonable, which is defined as a type generally recognized as ordinary and necessary for the operation of the non-federal entity or the proper and efficient performances of the federal award. Please double-check calculations, especially for categories in which rows were added, to ensure that the amounts from all rows are included in your total. Check that the figures on your summary worksheets match those on the narrative worksheets. The summary worksheets include your matching funds, but not the program income. The budget descriptions will help you determine which costs are administrative versus instructional, and which are allowable versus not allowable. We provided some budget worksheet examples to help facilitate your completing of the summary and the narrative worksheets. They show examples of how your calculations should be shown. Follow the examples as close to the ones provided. These are examples and do not represent any actual budget. We have also provided detailed explanations for each completed row in the example. They provide information such as whether the cost is administrative as opposed to instructional, and whether or not the expense is allowable for Maryland Department of Labor funding. Some expenses cannot be paid for by Maryland Department of Labor funding, but can be paid out of your matching funds. So we have two optional applications. One of those is the IELCE IET application. This is a separate and optional application. You are not required to apply for this funding source. There is a budget workbook and class schedule workbook specific for IELCE IET. Carefully read the requirements and the explanation for this funding source. It is unique, and you'll want to have a good understanding about this funding line before deciding if your program wants to apply for IELCE funds. The chart showing the available funds by jurisdiction was created based on the possibility of all jurisdictions applying for this funding. We do not assume that a previous provider will apply for this funding line in FY21, nor that a program that wasn't previously funded won't do so. You should ask for whatever funds you think you need to run this program. However, we cannot guarantee that you will receive that amount. The other optional application is for NEDP. That also has a separate budget and a site schedule workbook that are specific to NEDP. The application also has assurances that are specific to this funding line. Again, those signatures must be in blue ink. The estimated total NEDP funds available for the period July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021 are based on projected funds for the period are as follows. The available total NEDP federal funds are $312,985. and the total NEDP state funds are $273,734. The information is not broken down by jurisdiction because NEDP is generally not offered in all adult education providers in the region. So projected expenditures for all proposed NEDP grant activities, including NEDP staff salaries, should be included in your application. If you have any additional questions, we ask that you submit them to Ellen Beatty at the email listed here. You must submit your questions by 4 p.m. on February 17th to receive a response. All questions and responses, as well as this webinar with the slides, will be posted on the Maryland Labor website. And we want to thank you all for your participation and your interest in applying for our competitive grant application.